Bookworms, welcome to the Weekend Readers Book Club. Thank you for joining us. In this episode, we are discussing Book 2 of the Hannibal Lecter trilogy, that is, The Silence of the Lambs, by Thomas Harris. In Silence of the Lambs, the story is about Clarice, an FBI agent, or actually a trainee FBI cadet, really, who is trying to track down a serial killer, that is Buffalo Bill, and she needs the help of Hannibal Lecter to help solve the case. So I've read and completed Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris. So these are my thoughts on reading this novel, Book 2 of the Hannibal Lecter trilogy. So in Silence of the Lambs, I really enjoyed Chapter 1. We have a direct tie-in to the end of the Dragon book. Hannibal's still in a mental facility. Special Police Officer Graham, his name gets dropped as well. In addition to that, so does the name Red Dragon. So we've tied things up in relation to everything in the first chapter, and we come to the realization that we're in the same universe, but we're somewhat a few months or years past the story of Red Dragon. So that was cool. Getting a few chapters into the book, I came to the realization that this story has a lot more Hannibal. And in this story, Hannibal was actually a main feature of the actual story itself, where we sort of played lip service to him in Red Dragon. Now he's got a bit more character development, and we're getting a lot more Hannibal. I found the pacing of the overall story really well. It sort of plodded along at a decent speed, especially when it transitions from, say, Clarice's and Hannibal's interaction in the insane asylum, if that's what you mental facility, and then her interactions with her fellow cops outside of the mental facility without Hannibal, and then also how the story carries on to Buffalo Bill's backstory, and what he's trying to do. Overall, I found this story a lot more enjoyable, probably mainly because there's a lot more Hannibal in the story, so I actually got my real first taste of who and what Hannibal Lecter is about, I think. But yeah, he out there. I love the interaction between Clarice and Hannibal as well, so that was really cool. The storyline of Hannibal when he is released into police custody to assist with the Buffalo Bill murders, that whole story arc blew me away. I was like, oh, I didn't expect this, and what I got was extremely fun and left me with some questions, but we'll get to those shortly. Also, Buffalo Bill. First off, what a weird character. But when I say weird, like, I'm fully invested in Buffalo Bill. However, I'm like, how does Thomas Harris come up with a character like this? Because his speciality or his reasoning for wanting to do what he wants to do is very unique. And I'm like, how exactly did your train thought when creating the book go, I want Buffalo Bill to do this, i.e. wear this? And I'm like, how does somebody go, I'm going to write a book and my main villain is going to be doing this so he can wear this? And again, I won't spoil it for you if you haven't read it, because if you haven't read it, it's a great read. You should read it if you like this sort of genre of story. But it's like just the thought process behind the character development. I'm intrigued, and I'm like, wow, how did Thomas Harris come up with that? Because his Buffalo Bill's character development in relation to what he is doing, why he's doing it, and how he's doing it, and what he is actually doing with the people that he, kidnaps and kills, I'm like, this is bonkers. But I loved it. I found the ending of the book good. However, I'm sort of conflicted because I'm like, what happens next? Like, Hannibal Lecter is out in the free world, living his best life, and I'm like, so do we find out what's next? But I'm really confused because the next book that we're reading is Hannibal. That's book 3 in the trilogy. Up until this ending, I assumed Hannibal was the origin story of Hannibal Lecter, the character. So I'm a little confused on what Hannibal will be, if it's a continuation of The Silence of the Lambs, where he's out and about and doing his thing, or if that's the origin story, because it's a trilogy. Like, is Hannibal the prequel to the 2 books that I've just read? I don't know. I'm confused. I haven't Googled anything at the moment, so I'm going to go into it blind. So either way, I'm going to be intrigued. I'm just like, he disappeared. What happens next? So overall, after reading Silence of the Lambs, I believe, like in my opinion, it's a lot better than Red Dragon. I thoroughly enjoyed it a lot more than Red Dragon. Don't take it away. I did enjoy Red Dragon, but I really enjoyed Silence of the Lambs. And the idea behind this trilogy book, it sort of plays into one another. I'm glad I read Red Dragon first, because it gives me some substance to what to expect in Silence of the Lamb. And Silence of the Lamb sort of turned up to 100 based on what we got with Red Dragon with Hannibal Lecter and the police interaction. So I don't know where we're going with Hannibal, but I really enjoyed Silence of the Lambs. And if I was to say, would Silence of the Lambs go into a bookshelf? I'd say yes. And with that, I would be like, well, because of that, Red Dragon would go into my bookshelf too, because it's part of the series, even though Red Dragon's not as high, like if I was to rank it, it's not as high as Silence of the Lambs. I'm still like, okay, it's critical to the overall story and lore that is Hannibal Lecter. So, I mean, yeah, it's all... I enjoy Silence of the Lambs. That's all I'm going to say. I really, really enjoyed it. So Bookworms, usually we tell you what the next book is, and you already know what the next book is. It's Hannibal, book 3 of the Hannibal Lecter trilogy. This is the last book in the omnibus that I have, which is the 3 books, as one. It's probably the largest book I've ever read in my life. It is total pages, 1,222 pages. It's a mammoth of a thing, but I really enjoyed having all 3 of the books in one place. So I'm going to start tackling Hannibal, book 3 of the Hannibal Lecter trilogy. I'm hoping it's an origin story. Like, as much as I want to know what Hannibal Lecter got up to, I'm hoping Hannibal is his origin story, where I find out about how and what he did to his clients and killing and eating people. And I'm really intrigued about that. And serving the people that he killed to their friends and families, so they're eating them. I'm like, I am intrigued by that. So hopefully Hannibal is the origin story. But for Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris, I love this book. This book is amazing. And yes, I still want to watch the movies. I haven't watched the movies yet. So Bookworms, that was my discussion and review, rant, whatever, of The Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris. A book I thoroughly enjoyed. A book that held my attention. It gave me a bit more of what I wanted going into this project with Hannibal Lecter, because I had a hell of a lot more Hannibal Lecter than Red Dragon. So I'm off to start reading Hannibal. Thank you for listening to this. And as always, Bookworms, happy reading.